Welcome to Soul Garden Self Disclosure Series Episode 3. This is Nicole coming to you from Soulflower, and we thank you for your presence. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Soulflower 444, so that you can get access to all of our Soul Garden episodes and the other things that we will be providing on this channel. This is not a formal podcast. This presentation is intended for adults only. So if you're under 18, this is not for you. We don't own the images, music, or material presented. This is for learning purposes only. So if you continue with this episode, you not only agree to this, but you agree that you know about the disclaimer. This episode is brought to you by Smart Beautiful Granola, founder Stephanie from Philadelphia. Her motto is nourish your day the smart and beautiful way. You can reach out to her at www.beautifulgranola.com, or you can email her at questions@smartbeautifulgranola.com. We would also like to shout out Alchemy Healing and Recovery Coaching, founder Evangela Haley out of California. She's an excellent trauma coach who has a platform on Facebook and TikTok. Smart and Beautiful Granola also has a platform on Facebook. You can reach out to Alchemy Healing and Recovery at beyondtheguru.com, I believe. Beyondthegurucoaching.com. Beyondthegurucoaching.com, y'all. And again, her platforms are TikTok and Instagram, and it's called The Casual Coach. Evangela is also an AA sponsor. So if you're looking for an AA sponsor in the California area, Evangela is the chick for you. If you're serious. Because if you're not serious, woe to the one that ain't serious. We also would like to shout out Brains Magazine, as we are partnering with them for our published articles. And you can go to www.brainsmagazine.com and subscribe to them, where you can not only have access to our great articles, but access to other amazingly leading edge divergents that are posting over there as well and publishing articles. It's really a great company, and they do have a platform on Facebook, I know for sure, and Instagram. All right, we got a couple of more shout outs, y'all. Ask Your Barber. This is a company out of Houston, Texas. So if you're in the Houston area, go look up T. Harper. She's a barber out of the Midtown area. And you can go to www.askyourbarber.com, look up more information about her and her barber business. She is very good, as you can see on the screen. Very creative. Highly creative. She also has Facebook platform, if I didn't say that. And you probably can contact her through Facebook as well. But go check her out. Very good. In Tennessee, we have Doris Jones as our next shout out. She has a company called Depressed Teens, and it's an online business. So you can, my suggestion would be to go to Facebook, because all the information about ordering and all the current information surrounding that is on there. She may have other platforms, but I know for a fact that she's on Facebook. And you can also contact her through Messenger that way. You can also contact her through email and the number that is on the screen. As you can see, she does great work, and there is some unique things that she do. So please go to the Facebook page that she has, because it's highly informative about what she does and what she can do for you. Again, shout out to Doris Jones out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, with Depressed Teens. All right, without further ado, let's get into our discussion, y'all. Hopefully, we can get through this, because I have literally been working on this all day, and I have attempted to complete a video for the past, I think, 2 hours. So let's get into our discussion. It's fascinating. The 8 living leading edge generations. If you are into sacred service, if you are into self-leadership, this is the presentation for you. This is a great discussion. This is actually one discussion that I've been fascinated with ever since I got my master's years ago. Not a couple of decades, but a decade and a half ago. It's been very fascinating because I took a leadership course where they talked about the different generations. And at that time, I was asking myself, why don't we have more of a generational awareness surrounding the different generations that exist? And unless you're in higher education, you don't. So let me bring that information to you. Let me bring it. But first, I wanted to talk about why this is so important. Let's go a little bit more into why this is important. As a leading edge divergent, this is important because I want to know who I'm serving. I also want to know who I am in the light of the people who have existed and are existing, and the ones to come. Because the ones to come are the ones that I will be providing sacred service to. So I think it's very relevant for this time, because we're in a unique time right now. And that unique time, astrologically speaking, is at the end of Pisces and at the dawn of the age of Aquarius. So we're right transitioning from one age, which is completely different from the age we just entered. We also are at the turn of a century as well. Not only are we at the turn of an age, we're at the turn of a century. Then on top of that, we're in the year 1. So 2026 is actually a perfect year, the year of the fire horse, to have this discussion. We'll cover a lot in this, so you're gonna need a little time to listen to everything. But I'm going to go as quickly as possible with this. Mostly shooting from the hip, because I have did so much research surrounding these generations. Also, I've started this discussion many times today, so I should be competent enough to get through it this time. All right, number 1. This is an honorable mention, and it's the lost generation. This generation personally is the generation of my great grandparents. So these people no longer exist. They are all gone. They existed between 1883 to 1900. They were known to be a party generation. They were known to be rebellious, to do whatever they wanted to do and however they wanted to do it, as long as it felt good. They didn't trust the government because they were post-war babies. They saw the results of war. They saw the result of the government, Well, depending on where you stayed in the United States, you really distrusted the government if you was part of the South. So, they had a lot of members in their generation that distrusted the government. They came of age during World War One, which means they participated in that war. They missed the Civil War, but the First World War cost them. They were part of the Roaring Twenties, so they saw the economy boom. Then they saw the economy crash with the stock market crash. They also had a pandemic, the biggest pandemic of the 20th century, which was the Spanish flu. So they were a part of all of that, which probably is why they had PTSD. Back then they called it shell shock, I believe. Um, they was also the creators of some great music, which is jazz. I love bands, and jazz bands is right up my alley. So that's that on that. But in particular, this generation, they were called the Lost Generation by Ernest Hemingway's mentor. They called them the Lost Generation because they were so emotionally detached, and they had the biblical mentality of eat, drink, and be merry before we die. But because we gonna die. So that's it on that. That was interesting. I never knew my great grandmother because she died young, but it was interesting to read about her generation. I know for sure she's a part of this generation, and my great grandfather. I know for sure they're a part of this generation. So, all honor to the Lost Generation who brought us through World War One, the stock market crash, the Roaring Twenties, and the Spanish flu, and contributed to us jazz. All right, next we got the Greatest Generation. The Greatest Generation. They were resilient and committed. They were loyal, self-sacrificing. They had an unmatched work ethic. Now, this generation in particular, I knew them because this is grandparent generation. They are the children of the Lost Generation. They were self-sacrificing, frugal, humble. They were deeply spiritual too. Um, they were baby boomer parents, so they were committed and loyal, very protective, very strict. I would say in my opinion, I would say they inherited that um, emotional detachment that their parents had from the Lost Generation. They lived through World War II, I believe. There is still some of these people living. So this is the first living generation. The generation is still living here. They are 99 and up though. These are, I can't remember how many they said were still living. I want to say 100,000 of them are still living. So all honor to the greatest generation that is still living. These are most certainly our elders. Okay, so they grew up during the Great Depression. They did fight in World War II. I'm looking at my notes, y'all. They were named after Tom Brokaw, an NBC nightly news anchor that wrote a book about them and called them the GI generation. Well, wait a minute. He called them the greatest generation, but they are also known as the GI generation and the World War II generation. because they either fought in World War II or they supported it by working in in the plants. The industrial boom came with the Lost Generation too. So yeah, let's see. According to Washington Post, they will all be expected to be gone by 2046 at the age of 120 years due to the healthcare and life expectancy improvements. So our advanced healthcare is assisting this generation to still exist and potentially still exist till 2046. Now that's great because it look good for the rest. That's good for the rest of us too. What else? They lived hard lives. They did, and they took care of everyone that they loved. My grandmother told me that her grandparents were actually slaves. I have African American indigenous descent, so that was fascinating to hear. Absolutely fascinating to hear for me. All right, so let's move on. I'll honor to the greatest generation again. If you have someone in your family that exists from this generation, you are indeed fortunate. The next generation will be their children, the silent generation. I also do have grandparents from this generation. This is the first generation to attend college and purchase homes. That was very important. Well, the purchase home. There was an emphasis on that, but also depending on where you were on the economic ladder, social economic ladder, education wasn't as prioritized. They grew up too, and during the Great Depression and World War II. They are the parents of the baby boomers. They learned how to compromise and conform during economic and global stability because they grew up in the Great Depression and World War II. So we're seeing a pattern here. The past 3 generations had a war and a depression. Okay? They were more conforming than the greatest generation. The greatest generation was more outspoken than the silent generation. I think this generation was smaller too. They were a smaller generation of the 20th century. 23 million of this generation is still existing. They're still now present in the United States. Did I do global? Yeah, globally it's 160 to 170 of these individuals still globally present. That's wow. So we went from 100,000 still existing to millions existing of this generation still. And they were born in between 1928 and 1945. That's 2028 is 2 years from right now, y'all. It's 2026 when we're having this discussion. So these people are almost 100 years old themselves. Starting out. Let's see. They prioritize fitting in and maintaining social norms, like the Lost Generation. No, like the generation before the Lost Generation. I didn't look at what they were called. I just started with the Lost Generation, but the parents of the Lost Generation, remember I said they were conformists. The Silent Generation was said to be conformists too. This generation was the creators of rock and roll, and that was their contribution to humanity. They also had the huge contribution of the civil rights efforts. I don't know what that sound is, y'all, but my apologies. That's from outside. and they were the first generation to grow up with television. So TV was created at this time. So our technology was starting to peak up, starting with the silent generation. Pick up again. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. What else can we say about them? They had some other names on the other side, not in the United States. They were in Russia. They were called, a small group of them were called the 60ers, and in Australia they were called the Builders. And this is on the east side of the world. They're also called the Traditionalist generation or the Builders generation. What else did I find interesting about them? Oh yeah, the reason why they're called the silent generation is the perception that they are more passive than the greatest generation, who was very outspoken. That I can attest to. They're more passive than the greatest generation and the baby boomers, which are their children. And these two generations, baby boomers and the greatest generation, they are known to speak their minds. Now the greatest generation different speak their minds, and well, baby boomers too. Let's see. These are the first children of the be seen and not heard rule too. So that attributes to the silent generation name as well. Oh yeah, they also went through an era where what you said, which is the Jim Crow era, what you said could get you killed due to all the tension and conflict. World War II was the war with Hitler as well, I believe. I forgot to do the popular. I'll do that later. We'll move on. All right, baby boomers, born in 1946 to 1964. The baby boomers are the parents of Generation X. This is the first huge generation of the 20th century. Let's see. And that's why they're called the baby boomers, because they're named after their huge size. They are still making impact on the world, even in retirement, because they are aged 62 to 80 right now. So they are very prevalent in our world right now. These were the kids during the civil rights movement. This is the hippies generation, so that's their contribution, and the teenagers that were protesting against the racial inequality at that time. These were the kids that, went to the schools where there were racial tension, and like the little girl that I want to say it's Montgomery, Alabama, but I don't want to lie to y'all. But there was a black student that was a female that went to a very all white school, and they treated her like trash. They were protesting when she went in, and then after she went in there, they refused to teach her. They just made her sit at her desk all year by her in a classroom by herself, which is it's not a very known fact. Let's see, but that child was a baby boomer. But I was thinking that it was the boomers that were the main racists of the civil rights movement. When turns out that racism was something they inherited, which makes sense, from the generations before them, which is before the lost generation. That generational pattern has continued to evolve to survive the generations, which I would say racism, all the isms, racism, sexism, issues with gender, you know, all, the homophobia, all of that. Around this time, they were saying that people of the LGBTQIA communities were, they had mental health issues. So they were giving people lobotomies and, doing all kinds of crazy shit. Then they were doing the government was starting to experiment on people and all kinds of stuff during this era. Look it up. Look it up. They were not. They are workaholics because they still working. The baby boomers, and they hold a significant source of wealth that the generations after them will inherit. So they were a money making generation. There's so many of them. This is also the soap opera generation. They love soap operas. Is that it? But it do pay the research job. It does pay the research because this has really helped me personally to see what has continued to be a cycle throughout the different generations that we've had, the different leading edge generations, and what our leading edge divergence had to deal with from the leading edge deviants. And we'll get into some of the divergence and the deviants later on of the different generations. All right, let's move on. I'm going faster than I thought it would. Generation X, which is the bridge generation. This is my generation. I am a part of Generation X. So my parents are baby boomers. This is from 1965 to 1980. So our ages are 46 to 61. So I'm a young elder. And my partner Sean as well. Her parents are baby boomers, and she is a part of the Generation X population. We are called the bridge generation because we are the last generation that know what it's like before technology took over. We're the generation that they prepared for the technology, for the internet, which they call it the superhighway. At that time, when I went through school, we were being prepared for that. We had computers, but our computers had blue screens. We had a floppy disk, what we call a floppy disk. It was an external drive, similar to the hard drives. Well, it was nothing like the hard drives we have now, but the closest thing that I can think of that it was like the floppy disk is like this, a CD, a DVD, USB drives, and those external hard drives as well. They were like that, but you had to actually insert it in the computer. We personally loved collectively this is where computer games started too. We had the Oregon Trail. We loved that. That's a game about being, back in the day, back in the 1800s, and you surviving the Oregon Trail, which is actually an actual trail. I want to say that trail was during the gold rush in the United States, but I don't want to lie to you. Do your own research. But there was an Oregon Trail. And the game was surrounded around that historical theme. We were known as the latchkey generation because our generation was the first generation that really experienced the parents breaking up and getting divorced. We had high divorce rates. So we had, we were one of the first generations to experience having two households. Like like me, for instance, my mother and father was not together. So I would live with my mom, but I would go see my dad So I had two households. Also, we were the generation where it was normal for there to be two incomes in one household. Like women regularly worked during that time. And a lot of times our grandparents, which were the boomers, would keep us. We are independent and self-reliant. We mind our business. We are skeptical of institutions after growing up during political and economic shifts. We grew up during the crack epidemic. We grew up during the AIDS pandemic. We grew up during the first Gulf War. We grew up. We were the kids. During our school years, our primitive school years, we were the ones that witnessed us. Well, I think the United States was trying to go into space, and we watched the space shuttle go up and completely blow the fuck up. That was like a huge event at our schools. I want to say all over the United States. I think we all witnessed that. If our teacher made that a classroom event, but I know for a fact I watched it. Now it's not funny. We do have a cynical sense of humor because we got a lot of PTSD in our generations as well because of all the things that we went through. We are resourceful problem solvers because we had to figure out everything on our own, and we learned how to adapt quickly. We are comfortable with technology because again, we were prepped for technology to shift by the end of the century. We do have an entrepreneurial mindset. We're not the type of leadership like presidents. We don't have a Gen X president, but we have more executive leadership. So whatever is in the background, we are leadership's over. We do value work-life balance more than the previous generations because they believe in working hard. Now we work hard, but we believe in a work-life balance of that. So we are the generation that started that ball rolling. We are pragmatic. We realistic as fuck. And we prefer authenticity and direct communication. So say what you need to say. We did inherit that from the prior generations, that direct communication. Because let me tell you, those prior generations, they didn't laugh when it went funny, and they didn't scratch where it didn't itch, so to speak. So, uh, we are very, very knowledgeable about the analog and digital worlds. We are technology, we're comfortable. And maybe I'll get a little bit more into that if I remember when I go through some of the individuals that, the leading edge divergence and deviance of our generation. Shout out to Generational X. All honor to us. I love y'all. Next is the millennials. I love the millennials too, because the millennials, from my research, this is the generation that really got the ball rolling. Now, Generational X, we were highly rebellious. We didn't. A lot of that go with the flow was still in the baby boomers, and we kind of got away from that. Our generation and the millennials, we was like, we don't want to be like our parents because a lot of millennials have baby boomer parents as well, and we wanted to get away from that shit. We didn't want our kids to work as hard as we had to work. Now there's a double-edged sword, but from that type of mindset, I think the millennials have did the greatest job of transitioning us to into healing from the PTSD of the past. This generation is right at the edge of the 20th and 21st century. So I hung out. Well, I have siblings that are millennials. A lot of them. And they are tech savvy and digitally fluent. And they grew up alongside the rise of the internet and social media. So they also too were being prepped for the internet, the information age, technology. What we call at that time in the 90s, we called it the superhighway. They were actually building the internet at the time. They value experiences over possessions. They often prioritize travel, creativity, and personal growth. As one of the most highly educated generations, they tend to be purpose driven and seek meaningful work that aligns with their values, shaped by the events like 9/11, the Great Recession of 2008, and rapid technological change. Because yeah, technology really did change. We went from dialing up in the early 2000s to these smartphones. Literally, it was like a blink of an eye. Millennials are adaptable, resilient, and comfortable navigating uncertainty. They embrace diversity and inclusion, favor collaboration, and often lead cultural and workplace shifts with an entrepreneurial spirit and a strong desire for flexibility. They consistently push for better work-life balance and more innovative ways of living and working. Excuse me, y'all. So, this particular group was the first group to really, really push diversity and inclusion. Now, Gen X did a lot of that work too, because but we filtered a lot of our frustration with the way the lack of diversity and inclusion through our creativity, like our music and movies, film, music, poetry, literature, all of that. We filtered it through all of that. We were highly creative throughout the 90s, the Gen X and the millennials. So, again, a lot of the developments that we're seeing today are as a result of the work that was done in the 80s and the 90s to push for more diversity and inclusion. Even with the AIDS epidemic, because millennials went through that too, and they went through the crack epidemic as well. 911 was very, very impactful for this particular group. Now, Gen X, not so much. It was just another day living in the hood for us, but for them, it was deeply impactful. And I love how they really stress mental health, because Gen X, we didn't do that. We didn't. We were slicker bully generation. I'm not even gonna hold you. Even though we pushed for diversity and inclusion, our dark side was that we were bullies, and a lot of us bullied millennials. Millennials are more easygoing than the prior generations. Um, they are two digital pioneers. They value teamwork and collaboration. And they, Lord, thank y'all, millennials, normalize the need to address and heal mental health issues, the work life balance, and personal wellness. Now, I don't know what they think about 911 now, because back then we was thinking that we got attacked by another country. I wonder have they figured out that that was not the case. If you know, you know. Moving on to the Generation Z. I think they are very, very impactful. They are bigger than the baby boomers. Now, they were born in 1997 to 2012. So they are the age range of 14 to 29 years old. So this is the millennials and Generation Z are the ones that are primarily in the workplace right now in the United States, potentially all over the world. They're the first generation to be raised full blown in the technology era. So millennials, the early millennials do know a life without technology. So Gen X is not the last generation. Actually, the early millennials are the last to know what it's like to not have access to technology. Different world, y'all. Different world. Um, they were born tech ready. They have no pre-technology life. These are the babies that already know how to come out and already knowing how to work the tablets and the smartphones and social media. They watched their parents struggle in 2008, which are the millennials and Gen X. They believe, wait a minute, what is this? Oh, they believe in side hustles and freelance work. They see diversity and equity and inclusion as a no-brainer. So they believe you stupid as fuck if you don't value that. They have officially destigmatized therapy, burnout, and emotional well-being openly. Thank you, Generation Z. They rather work in spaces that have mental health support. Like that. They value authenticity. I love to see that. They want the best deal over what's name brand. Yeah, I honor that. I like that. I'm like that. Let's see. They are the generation that felt deeply the results of the 2008 recession, the COVID-19 pandemic, because their graduations, their college attendance, and jobs were impacted. And this has caused them to see the future as unpredictable. So they got a little of that similar disillusionment that the greatest generation had. Let's see. They also saw all the racial shit shows of the past decade and our climate crisis. They had to address that more than prior generations because the prior generations have cut up when it came to the the climate. We didn't care. We didn't care. We didn't. Very few of us care. I say that. At that time, we were doing everything we were big enough to do. And if Gen X was doing, which is my generation, was doing everything they were big enough to do, I can only imagine what the generations before us was doing. Let's see. But this generation has access to more information, so awareness is easier to gain now than it was back then. Because we pretty much all we had was word of mouth back in the 80s and 70s, 80s and 90s. And I'm just coming from my own perspective of where I existed. Let's see. They're the first generation to fully address school shootings by creating shooter drills and making them protocols for K-12 schools. And they don't trust the government. I don't think, is there any one of us that trust the government? I don't think it is. But as you can see, that generational pattern has prevailed from the lost generation to Generation Z, which is the current working population. This is our young adults, our teenagers and young adults of today in 2026. Shout out to Generation Z. Y'all are doing an excellent job. All right, now here's some more honorable mentions as we have went through all 8 of the living generations. Um, the 8 living generations from the 20th to 21st century. Here's the other honorable mentions. Generation Alpha, which were born 2011. Some say 2010 to 2024. So they're aged 2 to 16. They're young. Early teens, I should say. I'll say early teens because that kind of overlaps with Generation Z. The research, it varies. So, but they're in the age range of 2 to early teens. They're named by Mark McCrindle, who has named the other 2 generations that you see on the screen as well. This generation is highly adapted to the interactive virtual environments. I know this generation. These are my nieces and nephews. I have one in particular that loves Roblox, and this generation loves Roblox, supposedly. Now, Generation Alpha is where we transition from, in the naming system for the generations, from the Latin alphabet to the Greek alphabet. So this is like Generation Alpha is Generation 1. So we starting over. And the age of Aquarius. When did we start walking the age of Aquarius? Now that was this year. But they are existing in that time. Actually, Generation Beta would be not even Beta. Well, yeah, Beta. They would be the first generation to see the age of Aquarius, the dawn of the age of Aquarius, which is right now. Generation Alpha is present too. I'm just saying they didn't, only very few of them would be existing before that, and they're on the cusp. But anyway, they're visually stimulated and dopamine stimulated as far as they come their learning styles. So that means they're emotionally impacted by what they see. And it also means it's hard to keep their attention. So I wouldn't want to be their teachers. They are old souls, which those of you who believe in reincarnation, they could potentially be reincarnated from the prior generation. Due to the pandemic, which is COVID-19 in 2020, they are struggling with reading. So that is a concern. I'm finding out this is the generation that I was concerned about as a teacher. I used to be an elementary teacher, so reading comprehension is very, 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 very significant for the education of our children. I still strongly believe that. And because of the pandemic, a lot of the children that were in preschool and kindergarten and those early grades where they're learning how to read, because they were at home, did not get any proper instruction when it came to reading comprehension. I am very concerned about that. Hopefully, that's a unrealistic concern as a young elder, as an elder generation. I hope that this is something that they can naturally resolve. They place value on family security, personal health, and physical safety. That's generational alpha. That's what we know about them thus far. Now let's get into generation beta, which is 2025 to 2039. These babies are just one. All right, they babies, literally. These are toddlers. They were just born last year. And this is what they are projecting according to Google and my other sources, which would be YouTube, which would be, articles like Psychology Today, and there was another one. They'll be raised with the foundations of emotional intelligence and mental health awareness. Man, I love to see it. I love to hear it. They are inheritors of what we have done to the climate. That is unfortunate. Generational beta, that's a con. They're the inheritors. Everybody else was made aware, but generational beta will be the first generation that will inherit the results of the climate change that we are seeing and experiencing now. They'll experience more of that. They're expected to grow up with green energy, sustainability, and eco-friendly practices as standard protocols, starting in preschool as a result of them inheriting the shit show that we have created for them climate-wise. By 2040, 58% are expected to live in cities, and they expect them to be the most urbanized generation in history. So they'll want to live in the city, and it says they'll be prosperous due to our economic evolution that's occurring right now because technology is advancing. Many are expected to see the 22nd century due to the healthcare advancements. So these generations are expected to live way longer than we do. Okay? Way longer than we do. So maybe generational beta will pick up this conversation that we are having now about generations, and maybe they'll inform their generation and the future generations about us. May it be so. And so it is. All right. And then last but not least, let's mention our future generation, Generation Gamma. And they will exist from 2040 to 20. They will be born in 2040 to 2054. And it's projected, according to Google again, not to want to own their own physical possession. They will borrow everything from library-like systems. Money will be mostly digital, which is expected to be a digital system by 2035 anyway. So by the time they're 14, they'll shifted mostly over to a digital system. I did research that said that they plan on keeping some paper money or tangible funds for people who are not willing to link up with technology, like, make it a seamless part of their life. Yeah. So, yeah, that's all the generations right there. So what do y'all think? I mean, I learned a lot. Oh yeah, I meant to say Generation Gamma will be the first generation that is completely it'll be completely natural for them to interact with AI, because AI will either have matched human intelligence or surpassed it by then. It is expected for AI to have surpassed our human intelligence by 2030. So everything will be operating through AI by then. And there's a Disney movie. I think it's Wally. And if you don't know what Wally is, look it up because it's kind of old. That society, they did nothing. The AI did everything for them. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of, and it's kind of a con, but also what they said about Generation Gamma is that though they'll have I'm trying to look for the word, abilities that we read about in science fiction. So they're gonna be badass. They're gonna be badass. And I look forward to seeing them. I look forward to seeing them. We just gotta keep our head in the game right to make sure that we continue to evolve and not be eradicated. I know that sounds pretty radical, but shit. Things can go left very easily. Alright, without further ado, let's get into our energy report and our mastery pool for the day. See what I got. I'm looking for my energy report, y'all. My notes. I got them a little mixed up. I hope y'all did like that discussion because I thought it was absolutely fascinating. Uh, it tempered that, learning things like this. It tempers that outdated philosophy that the older generations know more than the generations that are present and the ones to come. Now, there are some things that elders can contribute. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. However, when it comes to leading edge things that that are emerging and coming into existence, elders must be wise enough to allow the younger generations to teach them about that. So it's an equal exchange. I think we will contribute more relationally. We'll contribute more about how to survive things, and they still have our DNA within them. So they'll still have access to the things that will help them survive. But there are some lost skills that I feel need to be they still need to have, because they have access to so much information that can become, for lack of a better term, fake as fuck, and lead them down a path that doesn't serve them or serve humanity. Alright, energy report, y'all. I found it. So we are in Gemini season. The sun is in Gemini, astrologically speaking. Tomorrow, no, not tomorrow, next Sunday, which is May 31st, 2026, we'll have a second full moon that is called the blue moon. It's a little bit smaller than our average full moon. However, it is not common for us to have two full moons in the same month. because we've already had a full moon in Sagittarius already. And I did not write down what this moon is in. But if you go back to the energy report that I did prior to this particular podcast episode, I do go in more detail about this particular full moon. It is called the blue moon, and that's just the name. It's not really blue. There's no other reference outside of it just being named that. What's unique about this moon as well is that there will be a star in certain areas of the sky. I don't know if it's the United States. It might be in the eastern hemisphere. The star is called Antares in the constellation Scorpius. It's going to be shining right by this full moon called the blue moon. The next new moon will be June 14th, 2026, and that will be in Gemini. And that's going to be a super new moon. That's what's unique about it. If you want to know about some of the inner work practices that come with those particular transits, please again go back to the energy report that was prior to this particular podcast. All right. What else we got? I did add a little note for y'all that you can work on. My bad. In my notes, I put that the download that I got is that you can read, and according to research as well, rewrite the stories you are telling yourself about your own life in ways that serve you. So that means that, again, we're in the year one, the narrative that you tell yourself, your self-talk, you have the opportunity and the energy is available for you to rewrite it, to revise it, and make it stronger so that you can continue to evolve personally. Right, review any plans that may be unclear because the energy that's provided now will assist you in making those plans clearer for you. It may be something that you didn't see before that you might be able to see now. So those plans that you set down to come back to, it's time to come back to them and review them. And we get an intuition boost, y'all. So make sure you're available for that. Absolutely. And I will say again, please see the prior energy reports. And I'm even going to add the energy report that I did at the beginning of the year, 2026, because that has the entire year's transits, the major transits in it. And those are very important references, especially as we come up, as we near Cancer season. Cancer and Leo season are two of the most important seasons of the year. Okay. So that's our mini energy report. And now let me get us some messages for us as leading edge diversions and for all of the generations that we have spoke about that are living. What messages can we get? There's one. And the first message is a question. Do I believe I am worthy? Goes right along with the transits. You are worthy. You are deserving and you are loved. Start seeing your divine beauty within you and go out and claim the life you've dreamed up. Your crown has been bought and paid for. Put it on your head and wear it. There's a quote by Maya Angelou. And here's our action for today, our personal action. On the card is called Soul Action. For a big goal or dream you have, ask yourself, do I feel worthy of this? The mantra is, I am worthy of it all. I liked it. And that came from our Soul Truth deck. It's a self-awareness deck by Brienne Hobby. So love, light, and unity to Brienne for that. Let's get another message. We got more than one message. That's number 2. Another question. What would I do if I had enough time? What do I do when I do have enough time? Very good for correlating with the transits that are available to us right now. And this is an empowering question from an Oracle card deck by Santa Wickstrom. So love, light, and unity to Santa Wickstrom for our empowering question. Our next message. We got quite a few today because we have a bigger collective that we're addressing. Waiting on the message to come. Oh, there it is. Whoop, there it is. It's an old Gen X song, y'all. This deck is by Don Miguel Ruiz. He wrote the 4 attachments, the 4 agreements, and the 5th. He got a lot of stuff. Look him up. And this message is be impeccable with your word. Realize the power of your word. Goes back to the other messages about the narrative, being worthy, and what would I do if I had enough time? It says your word is the power that you have to create. It is a gift that comes directly from spirit or within. You don't ascribe to, spirituality. If you're agnostic or atheist. Alright, let's go move on to our next message. Trying to wrap this up now. We had an hour and 7.5 minutes. Alright, we got an extra message with this one. This deck is from... This is an Oracle deck called Future Higher Self Oracle by Sis Hui. So shout out, love, light, and unity to you. If I mispronounced your name, I apologize. Charges to the head, not to the heart. The messages read as follows. When you rise to the challenge, it rises to meet you. Goes right along with, do I believe I'm worthy? About your word, being impeccable with your word, and what you do with your time. And then the second message is be patient and trust the wait. Everything is coming together. Again, co-signing with the messages we already have. What's next, Spirit? Alright, that one came out quick. And got 2 messages from this. Alright, spiritual rebirth. Or personal rebirth. Your soul is undergoing a rebirth. Embrace this new version of yourself with open arms. And this is about renewal, new beginnings, and soul cleansing. Still supporting all the messages we've heard thus far. And then the second message is seek the answers. All answers lie within you. Ask bravely. Listen patiently. And the truth will emerge. Don't be afraid to explore your inner wisdom and to discover the truth. That is from the deck that I got from my mentor, And this was from this particular deck was created by Empath Soul, and it's called the Soul Contract card deck. So shout out to Empath Soul, love, light, and unity to you for assisting us with these messages. And thank you, Spirit. We got one more, y'all. And this is The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beattie. We do this one all the time. Let's see what we can get out of this card deck. Shout out to Melody Beattie. She does excellent work regarding codependency. So if you have any issues with that, she can help you. Also, I want to say, I don't want to say it because I don't want to get her name wrong. But there's another chick that's really good on codependency. I think we got some of her material on YouTube. If not, we need to put it on there. All right. The last but not least is today I will ask my higher power to send their best, and I will trust that all is good. That all that is good will come to me. I will remember that sometimes we don't get what we want because something else is infinitely better in store for us. So, yeah, I'm feeling like the theme also is surrounding waiting for what is for us as well. If you're struggling with self-doubt or waiting on your ship, so to speak, to come in, whatever you want to manifest in your reality, these messages are for you. And you can use these transits to assist you in manifesting these things in a quicker manner, removing any resistance or blocks that you may have in the way. Okay? We're not perfect. I'm not criticizing you because you have all the time you were in the world. And you do what you want to do. You got free will choice. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying if you need a little extra then those are the messages that are coming out for all leading edge diversions from 1900 to 2040. And then, I think it fits well. The ones of us that exist today, we can utilize this information. It's going right with the transits. So, again, look at the energy report. And, journal about those things. Have the discussion with who you need to have a discussion with about it. If you got mental health issues, then all of this, the prior generation, the millennials, Gen Z, millennials are Gen Y too. Yeah, those generations have set the foundation for you to get healed. There's no excuse anymore. So get with it, y'all. Get with it. Okay. This concludes our podcast episode, which is called The 8 Living Leading Edge Generations. Thank you for listening to our channel. Please like, share, and subscribe so you can have the opportunity to connect with us again and for others to be able to have access to the information that we provide. What else? As you can see on the screen, we have 2 books that are available on Amazon. One of them is just available on Amazon. It's on the left. So, Mother I Have versus the Mother I Wish I Had. It's written by a meditation teacher here, Sean Cross, and practitioner. The one on the right, called Unbound Existence, the call to Inner Mastery, is written by me, Nicole. I am the author of it. LNPJ is my name, one of my pen names. And you can find that on Amazon, Ingram Spark, and on Balboa Press platforms. Let's see. Is that everything? We don't have any other upcoming events. We have some other projects that are still in the making. But we do got some material coming out soon. We do have some material coming out soon. So be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for all of our other announcements. Shout out to those of you that are celebrating the New Year this year. I mean, this year, the New Year this weekend. There is a culture that is celebrating their New Year. Who are they? Who is celebrating the New Year this weekend? What's their names? The Lao Americans. The Lao Americans. It's the Lao New Year. So shout out to the Lao Americans. And Happy New Year. They celebrate their New Year on Memorial Day every year. And if you have one of those celebrations in your area, please go support them. And experience a different culture from yours. Again, well, we're now in the time where we honor diversity, so I hope you do go out and support them. I certainly wanted to. The weather did not permit for me to do it yesterday or today, so I'm going to do it this way. I send my love and I send light and unity to you all. And with that being said, I pray that you all live well, but die free.